Hi, I'm Bert Stephani from Belgium, and this is the new Fujifilm X-Pro2 from Japan. I was commissioned by Fujifilm to give feedback about this camera and to supply some images, but my review and my opinions are my own. I started my journey into the Fujifilm universe with the original X-Pro1. I love that camera, but it lacks some functions and is not the fastest camera in the world. So for most of my work, I've been using the newer X-T1 basically since it came out. But I still like the rangefinder style body a lot better than the DSLR type body. So now with the X-Pro2 we basically have the best of both worlds. We have the rangefinder style body with the functionality of the X-T1 and more. I'm not going to give you all the specifications of this camera. You can find them online, but there's a couple of things that I want to pick out. First of all, there's the new sensor. It now has 24 megapixels, which is a big improvement over the previous 16. It has a better autofocus system with more autofocus points, and I figure that we can squeeze about an extra stop of light in the high ISO settings. To me, I'm happy to shoot this at ISO 12800. If you look at the design of this camera, then you can see that very little is changed from the original X-Pro1, which in my opinion is a good thing. The one thing that I've noticed immediately is that the grip on the camera is just a bit better, a bit more positively, a bit easier to hold. It's still not like incredibly big and grippy, but it makes a difference. If you use this camera with really big lenses, like for example the 1655 or the 5140, then it's not so well balanced as, say, like an X-T1 with a battery grip. But there will be grips for this camera to make it a bit bigger, make it sit a bit more sturdier in your hands if you're using the big lenses. The other change is that the lever here to change from the optical viewfinder to the electronic viewfinder now also can go in two ways, which means that we have either optical viewfinder, electronic viewfinder, or the hybrid viewfinder, where you can see the optical viewfinder with a small insert of electronic viewfinder. It's basically the same as we have seen with the X100T. Now if we take a look at the top of this camera, you can see this is because this is a prototype camera, of course. One of the things that are clear is now we have a -3 to +3 exposure compensation on the camera, and we also have a custom or C setting, which allows to even go to -5, +5 in the exposure compensation, which is an improvement over the previous -2, +2. Also, you can see now that we have a shutter speed of 8,000 of a second instead of 1/4000 of a second. Another improvement is we have a sync speed, flashing speed of 250 of a second instead of 180, and we have a built-in ISO dial on the shutter speed dial. Some may not be too convinced about that, and I wasn't too convinced about it from the beginning, but as I got to use it, I find it to work pretty fine. So basically what you do is you lift up this dial and then you can change the ISO settings, which works just fine to me. Now if you look at the back of this camera, there we see quite some difference. The buttons on this side are gone and all the buttons are here. One thing I do miss is a tiltable LCD screen. This one is just fixed. I was hoping for one that could tilt, but it's not a major thing, but I would have liked it. Another new thing is the AF point joystick. Now you can easily change AF points by just using this joystick, which is an incredible improvement when it comes to speed of changing AF points. It's a bit like what Canon uses, I think Nikon uses it too, and it works really fine. The other buttons are also logically laid out. The AFL button, which I use for back button focusing, is a bit too recessed in my opinion, so I basically switched it to this button. The AEL is now my AFL button, which you can set in the menu. There's lots of ways to customize this camera. I've been told that in the production version the AFL button will be a bit more pronounced and easier to use. Now, one little thing or major thing about the design is that now on this side we have a slot for the SD cards. Yes, cards, multiple cards, 2 cards, so it's a dual card finally. So we can have 2 SD cards in there. We can either use them sequentially, we can make it a complete backup, 1 card and the next card is the same, or we can use RAW on 1 card and JPEG on the other card. So when it comes to safety, that is a good feeling to know that we now have dual cards. Also the body is weather sealed, which just makes it more professional and it's just easier to use or feels safer to use. I never had any problems with the original X-Pro1, which is not weather sealed, and I used it in rain, snow, whatever, but still it makes you feel a bit more secure about the camera. The previous Fujifilm camera menus looked a bit like they were designed in MS-DOS or something, for those who can still remember it. They looked a bit old-fashioned, although they were pretty functional. Now we got new menus, which looks a lot better, but I still have to get used after using the old style menus for a couple of years. But I think it is an improvement. They're more clear, they look better, so that's always a good thing. We also have a new film simulation, which is the Fujifilm X-Pro2, which is a black and white film simulation setting. I find it to look really cool in some situations, and in other situations I prefer the classic black and white look of the images. There now is a noise engine in the camera which allows you to add noise to your images. I don't think that I will be using it, but other people will probably like it for a more natural filmic look. The major thing for me when it comes to JPEG setting is the fact that we have now more control over our JPEG settings. We have different levels where we can apply things like the highlight tone and shadow tone, noise reduction, all that kind of stuff, and I think that opens up new possibilities because now we have a higher level of control over the look of our JPEGs. Now, all these specifications and new features, they may be interesting, but the main thing that I'm interested in is how do they perform in actual use. A couple of days after the prototype camera arrived, I had a shoot of a hunting day as part of my hunting project, an ongoing documentary project about hunting in Belgium. So I took the camera out and decided, let's just see what I can do with it. To achieve a flexible and weather sealed setup, I used the X-Pro2 in combination with the 1655 f2.8. The best hunting is usually around dusk or dawn, so I was working in very little light and I really could use the high ISO capabilities of this camera. I went to 12,800 and still got perfectly usable files. At the end of the hunt, I switched to my 35mm 1.4 and shot at 1.4 to just gather that last bit of light, but basically it was completely dark by then, but you still shoot pictures like that. So basically that camera sees better than I can see with my eyes in the dark. The story of this hunting day is on the Kaji website, the website of our collective, so take a look and see how the camera performed. I never had any real issues with the autofocus system of the Fujifilms. It is a bit slower compared to some high-end DSLRs, but what I really noticed immediately when shooting with the X-Pro2 is that the AF has definitely improved a great deal. So it is a big improvement. I tried to shoot some pictures of my son during his football games, and it's amazing how quickly it just follows and it locks onto a moving subject. Works great in good light, but even in bad light the improvement is quite noticeable. I already told you that I prefer the rangefinder style of cameras, and it has little to do with the look of it. For me, definitely in portrait photography, it is very important to not have a barrier in front of your face when you're shooting. And with the viewfinder on the side, you basically have your face free and you can still communicate with the person sitting in front of you. So that's one of the main reasons why I'm still using the X-Pro1 in portraiture, but I'm happy that now I have a state-of-the-art and all whistles and bells kind of camera with this kind of body shape. When I shoot portraits, I generally shoot in full manual, and like with all the Fujis, I like that really tactile feedback of all the dials and buttons. When using wide open with a fast lens in good light, it is now very handy that we can use an 8,000th of a second as our maximum shutter speed. You can go still above that, but then you turn into the electronic shutter range. But even more important is the faster flash sync speed. We now have the what can be considered as industry standard 1/250th of a second flashing speeds, and previously we had a bit less. It does make a difference because it basically makes your off-camera flashes or your flashes in general a bit more powerful, and it's often that little bit that you need extra. So I'm very happy about that. Very easy to shoot on location with off-camera flash. In short, apart from not having a tiltable LCD screen, this is the camera that I've been waiting for, and it is my new main camera. I've been wanting to use it ever since I got the prototype, but I just couldn't use it on official jobs and things that has to be were urgent because I just couldn't share the files yet. I was not allowed to, but from now on this is my new main camera. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again in a future video.